Fathers, if you're struggling to connect with your son or desire to strengthen your bond, here's a great opportunity. The Royal Hood Father and Son Camp is a bonding experience like no other, hosted by Eric Argerman in partnership with Dr. Alan Meyer from Valiant Man. Empower your son for manhood through unforgettable memories and faith-filled moments that will define his future. Secure your place for April 7 to 9 at CYC Adventure Resort, Phillip Island. Visit fatherandsoncamp.com.
Welcome back to another episode of the Everyday Joy podcast. I'm your host, Ash Couchman, and I cannot wait to find moments of joy with you today. We're going to jump straight into today's episode. Let's hear the word of God.
The Lord himself will give you a sign. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son and will call him Immanuel. That is from Isaiah 7 verse 14.
Tilly, welcome.
Why, hello.
Back to the Everyday Joy podcast. I literally think I comment on your outfits every time you come on, but it's because you always look so good. We had a staff lunch the other day and I was talking to, this is our our whole staff lunch.
Oh, yes.
And I said to Shaylee, who is on the podcast and also is on the Shaylee and Rob show, I was like, Shay, I know Tilly's going to look so nice at this event. I was like, can you please make sure that we all dress up? Because I was scared. I was like, Tilly's going to come looking so good and I need help. I need moral support. And you looked beautiful as usual.
About? You are crazy.
It was just so funny. You showed me your dress and I was like, I got to find something beautiful.
Just because the sun is out and my other side of the personality is like, great, sunshine.
That's
fake
true.
Tan.
That's true. I do
Don't
love.
catch me in winter. It's a different story.
It's true. I know that for you are getting in a matter of days to go on a pretty fun adventure.
Yeah.
Just tell everyone what you're doing. Don't go too deep into detail because we might talk about that tomorrow. But where are you going? What are you doing? You've got a very different Christmas this year.
I have a very different Christmas. It will not be your typical Pavlova by the beach Aussie Christmas. I am flying out to Japan for a winter Christmas because my mum is there.
Oh my word.
So she's like, please join me. And I was like, all right, I guess if I have to.
That is the best. Have you ever had a winter Christmas?
Never. This will be a first. I really hope it's snowing.
Is it going to snow? I was going to say.
But Japan, most of the snow comes post-December and it's very thick in Feb.
I think I've heard that that's the case for most cold countries. Ugh. You rarely get a white Christmas.
I would love some snow, but that's right.
You could do a very iconic, beautiful Christmas post in the snow.
With Mount Fuji.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
And my hot chocolate.
I'm so jealous. We'll have to talk about it more in the upcoming episodes. But all week, pretty much all of our verses are about Christmas, are about the birth of Jesus. A lot of them are actually prophecies of Jesus over the next few weeks. And to start us off, we're in Isaiah 7 verse 14. Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son and shall call his name Immanuel. Now, we kind of were trying to do a little bit of research around this because Isaiah is from the Old Testament. Isaiah is not really anywhere close in the timeline to Jesus' birth.
I didn't even realize how far back this goes.
Yeah, we were talking about it and we were like, we should actually quickly Google and research how long ago this prophecy was spoken. Now, this is approximate. We don't know exactly, but from all the things we read, about 700 years before Jesus is when this prophecy was written. 700 years. So this is Isaiah, who is a very predominant prophet in the Old Testament. He talks a lot about Israel turning away from their sin. He turns a lot about the coming Messiah, actually, and also how we need to basically turn from our sin and come and be in relationship with God. And the fact that this verse, therefore, the Lord will give you a sign. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son and shall call his name Immanuel, was 700 years before Jesus 100%. Was even born. It kind of gives me goosebumps. I get excited. I go, isn't that the sickest thing ever? That this was prophesied so long ago.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I feel like we're also we can be so harsh on Israel. We can be like, wow, they were so unfaithful.
No. We're all like that.
But if you think about it, 700 years waiting for this prophecy to be fulfilled is such a long time where I'm like, okay, I can understand why your enthusiasm probably lacked a little bit in those 700 years. You're just waiting and waiting.
Our stamina for, life in general goes up and down. And these people were waiting 700 years or longer. We actually, we were even saying, now I think Tilly and I are probably slight Bible nerds sometimes. I was just telling Tilly all these crazy things that I had read and learnt, and one of the things is that if you can pretty much go all the way back to Genesis, and there is a verse in Genesis 3, and I don't know what word for word, but it talks about after the fall, so after Adam and Eve sinned, it goes through a list of, I guess, consequences of sin, and the last line when they're talking about Eve and I guess the women is something along the lines of the seed of Eve will crush the serpent's head, or will crush Satan's head. And that actually can be translated to the fruit, the child, or in the descendants of Eve and Adam, there will be someone that crushes Satan's head. And that's what Jesus did when he was born. He destroyed sin. And it's pretty incredible that is in Genesis.
How far back? So we're talking thousands of years. We're waiting for
the beginning
Jesus to
of
come.
Time. As soon as, actually, if you think about it, as soon as sin entered the world, God was like, here's the solution. You had to wait a while, and there was things that happened and life that goes on, but there was the solution for sin literally in that moment. And I think you're looking back thousands of years there, but even if we look back to this verse in Isaiah, that's 700 years of waiting and knowing that there would be a Messiah that comes for them. And the second part of this verse, it says, and you shall call his name Immanuel. Yeah,
I love Immanuel. It's basically translated meaning God with us. And I think that is such a beautiful sentiment that we can hold on to, especially this Christmas. Yeah. And if you want something that's going to sharpen your faith, we were just chatting about this, we so encourage you to find every prophecy in the Old Testament that is talking about Jesus. He would have fulfilled in his 33 years on earth over 300 prophecies pertaining to him and what he was going to do in his ministry on earth. Isn't that this isn't just we think Jesus is who they talked about because he did a couple of things. No, 300, no one can fulfill over 300 prophecies about them that was spoken hundreds and thousands of years before their time on earth. Yeah. It's absolutely insane.
Something that literally gave me goosebumps and almost made me want to cry before is we were looking up how when I was kind of reading into Isaiah and who he was and what these books were, one of the things is that Isaiah is one of the prophets that talks the most about a coming Messiah. And in Isaiah 53, there's this incredible passage. He basically starts talking about Jesus and he says, who has believed our message and whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? It talks then about, someone growing up and, that they didn't have any beauty or majesty to attract us to them. It says he had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him. It says nothing in his appearance that should make us desire him. It said he was despised and rejected by mankind, a man of suffering and familiar with pain. And then it says, surely he took up our pain and bore our suffering, yet we considered him punished by God, stricken by him and afflicted. It says, but he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that has brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed. So
amen.
700 years before Jesus was even born, not only was the birth of Jesus mentioned, but the crucifixion and the death and the salvation and that would come.
And the rejection that he was going to suffer.
That is so detailed.
So detailed.
That is so detailed. And I think what blows my mind, exactly what you said, this isn't just thoughts and theories. This is the truth, the truth. And it's one thing to say this is how people will treat him and leave it up to one person.
But to even comment on his appearance.
Yeah. And there is so much detail in the fact that he would be despised. No one would care, that he would be pierced. He was pierced with nails on a cross.
Yeah.
That is so specific. It's so incredible that this is the prophecy that we're given. And I think that it's such a humbling season. And I think during Christmas time, I was actually talking to my grandparents about this the other day. We need to correspond Christmas and the cross. Yes. Because they go hand in hand. Christmas is the beginning of this season, but it was the beginning of Christ taking on that burden of our sin. And so I think it's this incredible thought to go, God had this all figured out. He chose you and he chose me at the beginning of time. You know, we look back to Genesis, but then we also look back to Isaiah, that 700 years ago. There was such a plan, and I'm just in awe of the fact that that's what God's done. Isaiah 7 verse 14, therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Immanuel. Now, today's episode, it's probably felt a little bit different. We more just wanted to bring attention to the significance of this verse. This isn't just a verse moments before the birth of Jesus. This is a prophecy. This is a moment where the coming of Jesus was spoken about hundreds of years before he was even born. In this Christmas season, and as we head into these final few weeks and days before Christmas time, let's make sure that we really begin to think about not only the incredible gift of Christ, but also to know that in this, it's the beginning of that walk towards the cross that Jesus had. Remembering that in that verse, even in Isaiah 53, and I'd encourage you to go read it after today's episode, there is so much in there, so much you can learn, and we've barely scratch the surface on the level of prophecies and information and understanding that Isaiah and other prophets in the Old Testament have. So we'd encourage you, go read them, go learn about it in the lead up to Christmas, and take the time to truly recognize and remember that this season all comes down to Christ truly loving you and giving his heart and life for you. I cannot wait to dive even deeper into the Word of God with you tomorrow, but until then, I pray you're able to find moments of joy.
Fathers, if you're struggling to connect with your son or desire to strengthen your bond, here's a great opportunity. The Royal Hood Father and Son Camp is a bonding experience like no other, hosted by Eric Argerman in partnership with Dr. Alan Meyer from Valiant Man. Empower your son for manhood through unforgettable memories and faith-filled moments that will define his future. Secure your place for April 7 to 9 at CYC Adventure Resort, Phillip Island. Visit fatherandsoncamp.com.